What if the thing that broke you, the heartbreak that dropped you to your knees, the betrayal that stole your sleep, the loss that made you question everything you believed about yourself and about life, what if that exact thing was never meant to destroy you, but was always, always meant to decode you? What if your pain is not a punishment? What if it's a portal? Right now, someone watching this is holding on so tightly to something that has already ended, a relationship, a dream, a version of themselves, and they're convinced that feeling this deeply means something is wrong with them. Nothing is wrong with you, but something extraordinary is waiting for you. On the other side of the hurt you're afraid to feel, on the other side of the story you're afraid to own, on the other side of the letting go you keep postponing because it feels like losing. What if moving on doesn't mean moving away from who you were, but moving toward who you were always supposed to become? Stay with me, because by the end of this, you won't just understand healing, you will feel permission, perhaps for the very first time, to actually begin it. What if the thing that broke you, the heartbreak that dropped you to your knees, the betrayal that stole your sleep, the loss that made you question everything you believed about yourself and about life, what if that exact thing was never meant to destroy you, but was always, always meant to decode you? What if your pain is not a punishment? What if it's a portal? Right now, someone is holding on so tightly to something that has already ended, a relationship, a dream, a version of themselves that felt safer, more certain, more whole. And they are convinced, deeply, exhaustingly convinced, that feeling this amount of pain means something fundamental is wrong with them, that they are too sensitive, too broken, too far gone to ever find their way back to themselves. I need you to hear this clearly. Nothing is wrong with you, but something extraordinary is waiting on the other side of the hurt you've been too afraid to feel. Let's talk about pain first, because we have been told a catastrophic lie about it. We have been taught by culture, by family, by every toxic productivity message that invades our feeds that pain is the enemy, that the fastest path to healing is the path that moves around pain, not through it. We celebrate people who bounce back quickly. We quietly judge people who are still grieving 6 months later. We hand out timelines for heartbreak like prescriptions and then wonder why so many people are walking around emotionally hollow, going through the motions of living without actually being alive inside. Here is what the research tells us, and more importantly, here is what every honest human being knows when they stop lying to themselves. You cannot go around pain. You cannot go over it. You cannot numb it away, drink it away, date someone new, and hope it quietly disappears. Pain is not a detour. Pain is the road. And every time you refuse to walk it, you add another mile to the journey you'll eventually be forced to take anyway. When we try to numb the emotions that are too heavy to carry, something devastating happens. We don't just numb the grief. We don't just numb the heartbreak. We numb everything, the joy, the wonder, the gratitude, the capacity to feel connection. We become people who are alive but not living, breathing but not present, functioning but fundamentally disconnected from the full experience of being human. You were not created for a half-life. You were not designed to feel 50% of your existence while numbing the rest. You are meant to feel it all, and that includes the parts that bring you to your knees. So let it hurt. Not because pain is beautiful, not because suffering is noble or glamorous or some kind of spiritual achievement. Let it hurt because it is real, because it is yours, because it is asking something of you that nothing else in your life has ever asked, the radical, terrifying, completely transformative act of showing up honestly for your own experience. Now I want to talk about something that doesn't get discussed enough in conversations about healing, and it is the single most powerful force keeping people stuck in wounds they cannot close. It's not the pain itself, it's shame. Shame is not guilt. Guilt says, I did something bad. Shame says something far more sinister. Shame says, I am something bad. I am the proof of my own unworthiness. And shame loves heartbreak. Shame loves failure. Shame loves loss. Because in those vulnerable, shattered moments, it slides into the conversation so quietly you barely notice it. It takes your pain and it transforms it into identity. You stopped being someone who experienced betrayal and became someone who deserves betrayal. You stopped being someone who lost love and became someone who is fundamentally unlovable. You stopped being someone who failed and became someone who is a failure. And once shame rewrites your identity that way, healing becomes almost impossible because you are no longer trying to recover from something that happened to you. You are now trying to escape from something you believe you are. The most courageous thing you can do in those moments, and I mean genuinely radically courageous, is to look at your shame and name it out loud, to say, this happened to me, I felt this. I am still feeling this, and none of it is proof that I am broken beyond repair. Shame cannot survive being spoken. It lives in silence and secrecy and judgment. The moment you bring it into the light, whether that's to yourself in your most honest moments, to a trusted person, to a therapist, to the page in your journal at 2 a.m, shame loses its grip. And for the first time, you can see your wound for what it actually is, an experience, not an identity. Let's talk about grief, because we are doing it wrong collectively, and it is costing us everything. We have been given a cultural timeline for grief that is frankly insulting to the depth of the human heart. 2 weeks after a breakup, people expect you to be dating again. A month after a loss, people stop asking how you're doing. 3 months after failure, people expect you to have rebuilt, rebranded, and learned your lesson with a clean and inspiring narrative wrapped around it. And when you're not ready, when the grief is still raw and the wound is still bleeding, you start to believe that something is wrong with you for not healing on schedule. There is no schedule. Grief is not a problem to be solved on a timeline. Grief is a sacred, necessary, deeply human process of metabolizing loss. And it doesn't matter what you're grieving, a person, a relationship, a dream, a version of yourself that felt more innocent or more hopeful or more certain, that grief is real. It deserves time. It deserves space. It deserves your full and honest presence. The people who heal most completely are never the ones who grieved fastest. They are the ones who grieved most honestly. They are the ones who stopped performing recovery for other people's comfort and allowed themselves the full, unglamorous, non-linear experience of actually processing what they had lost. Some days that looks like crying in the shower. Some days that looks like laughing at a memory and then crying again immediately. Some days that looks like feeling almost normal and then being completely blindsided by a song, a smell, a Tuesday afternoon that somehow holds the ghost of everything you miss. That is not weakness. That is grief doing exactly what grief is supposed to do. It is love with nowhere left to go, finding its way slowly, painfully, honestly towards something new. And now I want to say something about your story, because pain lies to us about our stories in the most profound and damaging way. Pain tells us the story is over at the worst chapter. Pain picks up the book of your life right at the moment of your deepest devastation and says, see, this is who you are, this is what you deserve, this is where it ends. And we believe it because in the middle of pain, the future feels completely inaccessible. The person you might become on the other side of this is invisible to you. All you can see is the wreckage of where you are right now. But the wreckage is not the whole story. The wound is not the ending. Every single human being who has ever stood in ashes and then rebuilt something extraordinary, not because the pain disappeared, but because they refused to let it write the final sentence, they picked up the pen, they decided, sometimes minute by minute, sometimes through gritted teeth, sometimes with absolutely no certainty that it would work, they decided to write what came next. Your most painful chapter is not your ending. It is the setup for your most powerful becoming. And I know that can sound hollow when you're in the middle of it. I know that kind of hope can feel like a cruelty when the pain is still fresh and the wound is still open. So I'm not asking you to believe in the beautiful ending right now. I'm just asking you to stay, to keep going, to resist the lie that says this is where your story stops. And finally, and this is perhaps the most misunderstood, most complicated, most necessary part of any healing journey, we need to talk about letting go. Because letting go has been given a reputation it doesn't deserve. People hear let go and they hear give up. They hear let go and they hear what happened to you doesn't matter. They hear let go and they feel a terrifying wave of something that feels like betrayal. Like if I stop holding on to this pain, I am somehow erasing what I experienced, minimizing what I lost, dishonoring what I loved. Letting go is none of those things. Letting go does not mean forgetting. Letting go does not mean it didn't matter. Letting go does not mean you're saying that what happened was okay, or that the person who hurt you was right, or that the dream that died wasn't worth dreaming.
Letting go means you are choosing consciously, courageously, completely to stop allowing the past to be the architect of your present. It means you look at the pain that has lived in your chest for months or years and you say, you have taught me everything you came to teach me. You have changed me in ways I am still discovering. I will carry what you gave me, but I will not carry you anymore. That is not weakness. That is the most powerful decision a human being can make, to say, I was broken here, I bled here,
I lost something irreplaceable here, and I choose to live forward anyway. Not because the wound doesn't exist, but because I do, I exist, I am still here. And I will not spend what remains of my life as a monument to what hurt me. Let it hurt, because the pain is real and it deserves to be witnessed, especially by you. Let it heal.
Give it time, give it honesty, give it the space to do its sacred and messy and nonlinear work inside you.
Let it go, not because it doesn't matter, but because you matter more. Because your future matters, because the person waiting for you on the other side of this grief, the version of you who has been forged in this fire, deserves to finally arrive. You are not too broken, you are not too late, you are not too much or too little or too far gone. You are a human being in the middle of one of the most profoundly human experiences that exists, the experience of loss, and the extraordinary, difficult, sacred work of choosing to live beyond it. The door is right in front of you. It has always been right in front of you, and all it has ever required of you is the courage to walk through it. So walk through it. This speech is built on one foundational truth that cuts through every inspirational shortcut, every toxic positivity message, every just move on advice that has ever minimized your pain. Real healing is not fast, it is not painless, and it is absolutely not linear. But it is possible. It is deeply, completely, life-changingly possible for every single person willing to do the honest, courageous, vulnerable work of actually feeling their pain instead of escaping it, naming their shame instead of hiding inside it, honoring their grief instead of rushing through it, and ultimately choosing, with everything they have, to let go and live forward. You came here broken or searching or curious. Leave here knowing that your pain is not the final word about who you are. Your courage is